And we are back. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, go and watch part 1. I'll put it in the link in the description so it's easier to get to. And subscribe to the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. Let's do this. Shout out to the Men of the West. Absolute legendary channel. The Tale of Beren and Luthien. Part 2.
Farewell, sweet earth and northern sky, forever blessed, since here did lie, and here with lissom limbs did run, beneath the moon, beneath the sun.
Beautiful.
Luthien to Nuviel, more fair than mortal tongue can tell, though all to ruin fell the world, and were dissolved and backward hurled, unmade into the old abyss, yet were its making
Beren's creeping.
The dusk, the dawn, the earth, the sea, that Luthien for a time should be. Greetings and well met, my friends. Yoist here. I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Happy Hobbit Day.
Wait, is that Frodo?
Is that his 22nd?
Yeah, it's Frodo.
Frodo's birthday. Today we are going to finish discussing the tale of Beren and Luthien as told in the Silmarillion. And if you haven't seen the first episode, please check that out before coming back to watch this one. I'll link it and some.
I kid you not. This is probably I'll put an edit here, but I kid you not. I've clicked start on the video to record this. Finally have the time to do this, and someone is shredding trees outside. Who the hell shreds trees? Anyway.
Some other related videos and articles in the description and cards above. Finally, before we get started, we just passed 200,000 subscribers, and I wanted to thank you all for the incredible support and friendship over the years.
How could I not say thank you so much for 300 subscribers? I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everyone who's clicked that beautiful button. I really, really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed and want to join the family, please do. Let's get into this.
Here's to more to come. We'll talk more about the 200,000
All I'm saying is, when my hair's down, it looks just like Beren's.
Let us finish our discussion about Beren and Luthien and the Lay of Luthien, released from bondage.
And he's got a big nose.
From Tol in Gowerhoth, Finrod was buried upon his Isle of Old, and it is said that he now walks with his father beneath the trees in Eldamar, meaning he was one of the only known elves to return back to life. Beren and Luthien lingered together and found some measure of peace and joy, even as the winter went by. For flowers
kind of looks like Boromir there.
Tread, and birds sang beneath the snow-clad hills, and the year changed from 465 to 466 of the First Age. But Huon returned to his master Celegorm, son of Feanor, for that is who his loyalty was with, for now, although their love between pet and master was less. A change had also come to Nargothrond, for the elven prisoners released from Tol in Gowerhoth returned to the Elven Kingdom. They lamented their fallen king, and told of the might of an elven maiden who freed them, while the sons of Feanor had done nothing. It seemed to the people then that Celegorm and Curufin were only driven by treachery, so they turned their hearts once again to the rule of Orodreth, kin of Finrod.
Okay.
Orodreth let none slay the brothers, as the spilling of kindred blood would only bind the doom of Mandos more about them. But the sons would be given neither food nor rest.
Crazy how that one looks like Feanor so much.
Love would remain between the Feanorians and the elves of Nargothrond from then on, and they left, and Huon followed after his master Celegorm. Celebrimbor, the son of Curufin, repudiated the deeds of his father and stayed in Nargothrond. The brothers desired to go to Himring, where Maethros, their eldest brother, dwelt, and they wished to take a path through Dimbar and along the northern marches.
So his name's Maethros. I've been calling him Maedros. Maedros. Obviously, I know it's not his name, but I kind of like how I pronounce it. Maedros.
Of Dorioth to come to Himring by the swiftest road and avoid danger. As for Beren and Luthien,
who did it? Him lad. Sorry. I love how there's a couple of places that end in lad. We use the word lad a lot in the UK. It means like bro, but you say it to someone who's younger than you. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to. You can say it to anyone, really. You're right, lad. Do you know what I mean?
And they came wandering back into the forest of Brethil, near to the borders of
kind of like dude, I guess.
Beren thought once more of his oath, and once Luthien came back to her land,
no, not really.
To depart from her. She would not hear it, saying, quote, "You must choose, Beren, between these two, to relinquish the quest and your oath and seek a life of wandering upon the face of the earth, or to hold to your word and challenge the power of darkness upon its throne. But on either road I shall go with you, and our doom shall be alike." End
Damn.
quote. But as they spoke, Celegorm and Cúrufin espied them from afar. Celegorm turned his horse and spurred it upon Beren.
Where'd
while
these
Cúrufin,
bastards come from?
swerving, stooped and lifted up Luthien to his saddle. But
Leave
Beren
her
leapt up
alone.
from before Celegorm upon the moving horse of Cúrufin, and he took Cúrufin by the throat and
Hell
hurled him
yeah.
backward, and they fell together. The leap of Beren is renowned indeed. The horse
Nice.
reared and fell, and Luthien fell aside upon the grass. Beren throttled Cúrufin, but his own death was near, as Celegorm rode towards him with a spear. But Huan, the loyal and kind Hound of Valinor, forsook Celegorm in that hour, and sprang upon his former master, making the horse
And he saved him more than one time. No more. No more. I'll only tell one dad joke. I'm on a roll.
turn aside, and the horse would not come near Beren for fear of the hound. Celegorm cursed both animals, but Huan cared not. Luthien rose and forbade Beren from killing Cúrufin, but Beren took his weapons and gear, as well as his very sharp knife, Angrist. Beren lifted Cúrufin and flung him, and he bade him walk back to his noble kinsfolk, who could teach him to turn his valor to worthier use. Beren kept his horse in service of Luthien. Cúrufin cursed Beren to a swift and bitter death. Celegorm then took his brother beside him on his horse, and the brothers made to ride away. Beren turned and took no heed of what they said, but Cúrufin, who was filled with shame and malice, took Celegorm's bow and shot back as they went, aiming.
Oh, come on, man.
Huan caught this first arrow in his mouth, but Cúrufin shot again, and Beren took the arrow in his breast. Huan pursued the Feanorians who fled in fear, and returning, the hound brought Luthien an herb from the forest. With the leaf, he staunched Beren's wound, and Luthien healed him with her arts.
Huan is such a boss.
Thus they returned to Doriath, but Beren was
He's
still dead.
actually OP.
He arose one morning before Luthien and committed her to the care of Huan. And in suffering, he departed northward, going through the pass of Sirion, since Tol and Gowerhoth was no longer a threat. Beren came to the skirts of Tower Nufuin, the forest which he and his folk had once called Dorthonion and home. He looked out across the waste of Anfaglith and saw the far peaks of Thangorodrim. Beren then dismissed Cúrufin's horse and bade him walk upon the green grass in the lands of Sirion. Alone and on the threshold of the lands of Morgoth, Beren made the Song of Parting, in praise of Luthien and the lights of heaven, for he thought he would have to say farewell to both love and light. Those words were spoken at the beginning of this video. Beren sang aloud, and cared not who heard, for he was desperate and looked for no escape. Luthien heard his song, however, and she sang in response, and came from the trees unlooked for. Huan had carried her once again, and they had gone back to Sauron's Isle on their way northward. There they took on the terrible forms of creatures. Huan took the wolfheim of Drauglin, the werewolf he had killed,
Look at
and
that.
Luthien took on the form of Thringwithil, the vampirous messenger of Sauron, who was accustomed to flying to Angband in such a form. Beren saw their approach and was dismayed, for he heard the voice of Tenuviel, but now thought he was deceived. But they cast off their disguises, and the elf and man met between the forest and desert. Beren was glad, but soon wished to dissuade Luthien from aiding him on his journey. Quote, "Thrice now I curse my oath to Thingol," he said, "and I would that he had slain me in Menegroth, rather than I should bring you under the shadow of Morgoth."
Oh.
End quote. But Huan spoke for a second time, giving counsel to Beren. Quote, "From the shadow of death you can no longer save Luthien, for by her love she is now subject to it."
Now, I like how he's voice acted, Huan, you know. But this is how I feel Huan speaks. From the shadow of death you can no longer save Luthien, for by her love she is now subject to it. No? I feel like he's just a really well-spoken dog.
"You can turn from your fate and lead her into exile, seeking peace in vain while your life lasts. But if you will not deny your doom, then either Luthien, being forsaken, must assuredly die alone, or she must with you challenge the fate that lies before you, hopeless, yet not certain. Further counsel I cannot give, nor may I go further on your road. But my heart forebodes that what you find at the gate I shall myself see. All else is dark to me. Yet it may be that our three paths lead back to Doriath, and we may meet before the end. End quote. Beren now knew that he could no longer seek to send Luthien away,
that art is
for
so
their
sick.
dooms were won. By the counsel of Huon, he took up the disguise of Drogluin, and Luthien took up her disguise once more. The eyes of Beren held a grim but clean spirit, and horror was in his glance from Luthien. The werewolf and vampire thus went to the dread fortress of Angband. They came before the dale that lay before the gate. Black chasms opened beside the road.
Look at
and
that.
Forms of writhing serpents issued forth. The cliffs stood as embattled walls. Carrion fowl sat upon them and cried with fell voices. Above the gate rose 1,000 feet of precipice of Thangorodrim. One guard sat before the gates, for Morgoth knew of Huon and the doom of the Hound, that he should be slain by the mightiest wolf.
It's like a
that walks the
Balrog
earth.
Hound.
Thus by his own hand Morgoth had
Bal
fed
wolf.
one of the whelps of Draugween, until he became mighty and huge indeed, and he was sent to guard the gates unsleeping. Karkaroth, the Red Maw or Unfoglier, the
Wait, what's his name? I have so many jokes to say, but we'll keep them to myself. We're mature around here. We're mature.
Jaws of Thirst. Knowing that it had been reported that Draugween was dead, Karkaroth denied them entry, and he found something strange about them. Then Luthien cast aside her disguise and commanded him to sleep, and through her powers, he slept. Then the two went
Damn!
through the gate and down the labyrinthine stairs to commit the greatest deed ever dared by the two races of elves or men. They came to the seat of Morgoth and his hall. Beren slunk in wolf's form beneath the throne, but Luthien was stripped of her disguise by the will of the Dark Lord, and he bent his gaze upon her. She was not daunted, and offered her name and service to sing before him. Morgoth conceived an evil lust, and a design more dark than any that had come into his heart
Look
since
at
leaving
him.
Valinor. But he was deceived, and watched her a while, taking pleasure in his dark thought. But then she eluded his sight, and from the shadows came a song of such loveliness and power that a blindness came upon him. Then the Silmarils in his crown blazed forth with a radiance of white flame, and the crown grew heavy, and Luthien, catching up her winged cloak, jumped into the air with her voice still singing.
Sick.
She cast her cloak before his eyes, and he fell into a dark sleep. Then he fell from his throne, and the iron crown rolled, echoing from his head, and
So
all
cool.
was still as this moment of fate was come. Luthien awoke the wolf who was Beren, and he cast off his wolf-hame. Then he drew the knife Angrist, and cut a Silmaril from the iron claws that held it within the crown. The Silmaril suffered his touch, and did not hurt him, even though he was mortal, and the radiance showed through his hand, which had become a lamp. But the thought came to him to bear not one, but all three of the Silmarils from Angband.
What's the one thing that just messes up the world? Greed. Classic male human. Come on, Beren. I'm sure there were reasons he tried to take all three, right? Maybe, you know, he can end Morgoth there and then. Like, I can see why. Here's my thought, though. It said the crown fell off his head. Why didn't he just pick up the crown and leave? Isn't that what you would do instead of just taking the Silmarils out? Let me know in the comments down below.
And this thought led him to attempt to cut another Silmaril from the crown. But the knife broke, and a shard of the blade flew and smote the cheek of Morgoth. He groaned and stirred, and all of the host of his hall came to move and sleep. Fear came to Beren and Luthien, and they fled without disguise. They were not hindered nor pursued, but Karkaroth at the gate had risen from sleep, and now stood in wrath upon the threshold.
Oh god,
of
the
Angband.
firewolf. Oh god.
Luthien's power was spent, and Beren strode before her and held aloft the Silmaril in his right hand.
Nice.
The Dread Wolf halted and for a moment was afraid.
Nice.
Beren told him to be gone, claiming that the Silmaril was a fire that would consume the wolf and all evil things. Thus he thrust the Silmaril before the eyes of the wolf. Kakarot looked upon the jewel and was not daunted, and his devouring spirit flourished. Thus he bit off Beren's hand at the wrist and took the Silmaril, but all of his innards were filled with a flame of anguish as he swallowed it.
What the?
He ran out before them, howling and crazed, slaying all living things before him, lest they fled before his coming.
Oh.
His terror came from the north into Beleriand, and it was most dreadful.
So he ate his hand, and then because he's got the Silmaril in his stomach, he probably just got insanely strong. Either that or constipation.
For the wolf had the power of the Silmaril within him, and fate guided him. Beren fainted before the gate, and death came for him, as there was venom on the fangs of the wolf.
Oh no.
Luthien drew the venom out of the wound with her lips, and put forth her failing power to staunch the wound.
Well, she's a
But
boss.
behind her the host...
What's a failing power? Is that some kind of elven magic, I'm assuming? Why wouldn't he just say elven powers? Maybe like Phelan's like some kind of druid? No, she's not a druid. Well, maybe she is. I don't know. Let me know.
host of Morgoth awoke.
I've got a lot of
As
questions.
hope failed, ere the armies of
reaction.
Morgoth came to the two lovers, help came unlooked for from the skies. Beren was a friend of all good birds and beasts, so good creatures had been noised of Beren's need, and Huan had bidden all things to watch if he needed aid.
Good man.
Thus the great eagles of Manwë, led by Thorondor, came and saw the madness of the wolf and Beren's fall. So they flew swiftly. They lifted the two from the earth and bore them into the clouds. They carried them high to where the sun
The
and
eagles
moon
are
were
always
never
so
seen
clutch.
and unhindered, and they were carried southward, even as the Thangorodrim erupted. They passed over Dur Nu Fauglith, Tower Nu Fuin, and even above the hidden valley of Tumladen, where was the beautiful city of Gondolin, unburdened with clouds. Luthien saw all of this, but Beren spoke no word, nor opened his eyes, and he knew nothing thereafter of his flight. And so the eagles brought them to the borders of Doriath, and they were come to the same dell whence Beren had left Luthien, who had been asleep. The eagles set them there and returned to their eyries on the peaks of the Cressigrim. Huan came to Luthien, and together they tended Beren. He walked upon the edge of death, but eventually awoke and saw that it was spring again, and it was the year 466.
Damn.
Beren took the name Erchamion, the One-Handed, and after he was drawn back to life by the love of
Erchamion.
Luthien, they walked together in the woods once again. They took their time, and Luthien was content to wander forever, but Beren could not long forget his oath, nor would he hold Luthien from her father for too long. And he felt Luthien should not always live in the woods as the hunters among men do, so he persuaded her to return to Menegroth. But since Luthien's departure from the kingdom of her father, grief and silence had come among its people. Dairon the minstrel went east from the land, for he had loved Luthien and made music for her before the coming of Beren. Dairon was named the greatest of all minstrels of the elves east of the sea, and he wandered over the mountains to the east and made lament for fair Luthien beside waters dark for ages to come. In such a time as this, Thingol turned to Melion, but she withheld her counsel from him, saying that the fate he had devised must come to its end. However, Thingol had learned that Luthien had gone far from Doriath by secret messages from Celegorm. These messages said that Finrod and Beren were dead, but Luthien was in Nargothrond, and Celegorm would wed her. Thingol was wrathful and sent spies forth, thinking to make war upon Nargothrond. Then he learned Luthien fled again, and the sons of Fëanor were driven from Nargothrond, and Thingol was in doubt, for he could not make war on the Seven Sons. But he sent messengers to Himring asking the Fëanorians for aid in seeking his daughter, for Celegorm had not sent her back to Doriath, nor kept her safely. But the messengers came unknowingly into the onslaught of Carcharoth, as nothing hindered him, and the girdle of Melion upon the borders of Doriath did not keep him away. But Mablung, one of Thingol's messengers, had escaped, and brought evil tidings to Thingol. In that hour, Beren and Luthien returned, and the news of their coming went forth like a song, and a great host followed them to the gates of Menegroth. Beren led Luthien before the throne of her father, and he looked in wonder at Beren, who he thought was dead. Still, Thingol was not fond of the men who had brought perils to Doriath. Beren knelt and said he returned according to his word, and came now to claim his own. Thingol asked of the quest and vow. Beren said it was fulfilled, for Silmaril was indeed in his hand.
Very true. Technically, it still is, because I'm assuming the guy ate the hand while he was holding it, then take off the hand, and the hand's in his belly. Now, the hand may have, disintegrated. Excuse me. The hand may have got digested, but technically, he's still holding the Silmaril sword. I mean, it's a tough debate to have, but
Thingol told him to show it to him, and
there you
Beren
go.
extended his left arm and opened that hand, which held not. And then he held up his right arm and named himself Camlost, the Empty-Handed.
Oh no!
Thingol's mood was softened, and Beren sat before his throne upon the left and Luthien upon the right, and they told their tale of the quest for the Silmaril. All were filled with amazement, and Thingol realized the greatness of Beren among men. Thus he yielded, and Beren took the hand of Luthien before the throne.
Let's go.
A shadow fell upon Doriath, for now the people knew the cause of the madness coming from the north, as Carcharoth made his way towards Menegroth daily.
Now, another question is surely wouldn't Morgoth want his Silmaril back? So he'd be like, "Yo, Carcharoth, get that Carcharoth over here." You know what I mean? And then he'd just kill him and take his Silmaril. Let me know. I have so many questions, which is great.
And of any pursuit of a beast, that was the most perilous. Beren saw that his quest was not yet fulfilled. Upon this hunt went Huon, Mablung, and Beleg, greatest of the servants of Thingol, Beren, and Thingol himself. They rode forth in the morning and passed over the river Esgaldwin, and Luthien remained at the gates. A dark shadow fell upon her, and it seemed that the sun had sickened and turned black. They turned east and north until they came upon the wolf in a dark valley. The river fell in a torrent over steep falls, and Carcharoth drank and howled, but he espied them and controlled his wrath and lay in hiding. They set a guard about the area, and the shadows lengthened. Beren stood beside Thingol, and they were aware that Huon left their side. A great baying awoke in the thicket as Huon went to dislodge Carcharoth. Then Carcharoth leapt suddenly upon Thingol, but Beren strode before him with a spear, which Carcharoth swept aside before biting his breast. Huon leapt from the thicket upon the back of the wolf, and they fought bitterly. Within Huon and his voice were the horns of Arome and the wrath of the Valar, but within Carcharoth was the hate and malice of Morgoth. Rocks were rent
Now that's a fight I'd like to see.
by their clamor, and fell from high and choked the falls of Esgaldwin. Thingol gave no heed, and saw Beren was very wounded. Huon slew Carcharoth, but at this time his own doom was fulfilled, as the venom of Morgoth entered into him. He came and fell beside Beren. Huon spoke for a third and final time, and bade his friend Beren farewell before he died. Beren laid his hand upon the head of Huon, and so they parted.
Salutes in the comments for Huon. But you only have to salute one time. Alright, that's enough. That's enough.
In friendship. Mablung and Beleg hastened to the king's aid, and saw what had happened. They cast aside their spears and wept. Mablung took a knife and ripped open the wolf. Within, he had been consumed indeed by flame, but the hand of Beren held the Silmaril. When Mablung went to touch it, the hand was no more, and the Silmaril was recovered, as the light filled the shadows of the forest. Mablung put it in Beren's living hand, and he held it aloft and gave it to Thingol. Quote, "Now is the quest achieved," he said, "and my doom full wrought." And he spoke no more.
Sorry.
End quote. They bore Beren Camlost, son of Barhir, and Huon the Hound of Valinor upon a bier of branches, and came back to Menegroth in the night. At the feet of the tree Hiralorn, Luthien met them, and some bore torches beside the bier. Luthien set her arms about Beren, kissing him and telling him to await her beyond the western sea.
Oh.
He looked upon her eyes ere his spirit left. But darkness fell upon Luthien. So ended the quest for the Silmaril, but indeed not this tale, nor the lay of Luthien. For Luthien eventually perished, and her body lay like a cut flower. A winter and sorrow fell upon Thingol. Luthien came to the halls of Mandos, the place of death for the Eldalier, beyond the mansions of the west and upon the edge of the world where the souls of the Eldar sat in waiting. My words here, even paraphrased as they are and have been throughout this tale, cannot do this justice as the Professor did, as it spins all dooms together, and it is perhaps the heart of Tolkien's works that lay here. So I will read from the Silmarillion directly. Quote, "But her beauty was more than their beauty, and her sorrow deeper than their sorrows, and she knelt before Mandos and sang to him. The song of Luthien before Mandos was the song most fair that ever in words was woven, and the song most sorrowful that ever the world shall hear."
So, this Mandos character, it obviously isn't... What would be the comparison to... What's a comparison for him to, like, for me, so I can get my head around who Mandos really is? Is it like the middle of heaven and hell? Is that correct? Is that a good way of putting it? Let me know.
Unchanged, imperishable, it is sung still in Valinor beyond the hearing of the world, and listening the Valar are grieved. For Luthien wove two themes of words, of the sorrow of the Eldar and the grief of men, of the two kindreds that were made by Ilúvatar to dwell in Arda, the kingdom of earth amid the innumerable stars. And as she knelt before him, her tears fell upon his feet like rain upon the stones, and Mandos was moved to pity, who never before was so moved, nor has been since.
Wow.
Therefore he summoned Beren, and even as Luthien had spoken in the hour of his death, they met again beyond the western sea. But Mandos had no power to withhold the spirits of men that were dead within the confines of the world, after their time of waiting, nor could he change the fates of the children of Ilúvatar. He went therefore to Manwë, lord of the Valar, who governed the world under the hand of Ilúvatar, and Manwë sought counsel in his inmost thought, where the will of Ilúvatar was revealed. These were the choices that he gave to Luthien. Because of her labors and her sorrow, she should be released from Mandos and go to Valimar, there to dwell until the world's end among the Valar, forgetting all griefs that her life had known. Thither Beren could not come, for it was not permitted to the Valar to withhold death from him, which is the gift of Ilúvatar to men. But the other choice was this, that she might return to Middle-earth and take with her Beren, there to dwell again, but without certitude of life or joy. Then she would become mortal, and subject to a second death, even as he, and ere long she would leave the world forever, and her beauty become only a memory and song. This doom she chose, forsaking the blessed realm, and putting aside all claim to kinship with those that dwell there, that thus whatever grief might lie in wait, the fates of Beren and Luthien might be joined, and their paths lead together beyond the confines of the world. So it was that alone of the Eldalier she has died indeed, and left the world long ago. Yet in her choice the two kindreds have been joined, and she is the forerunner of many in whom the Eldar see yet, though all the world is changed, the likeness of Luthien the beloved, whom they have lost. End quote.
Beautiful.
Thus Beren and Luthien returned
And sad,
to
so sad,
467 of the
but
First
beautiful.
Age. They would return to Doriath, and those that saw them were both glad and fearful. Luthien healed the winter of Thingol with the touch of her hand, but Melian looked in Luthien's eyes, and saw her new doom, and she knew that a parting beyond the end of the world had come between them, and no grief of loss was heavier than the grief of Melian the Maya in that hour. In 469, Beren and Luthien would go to Middle-earth to live in Dorfern Aegwinar, the land of the dead that live, and no mortal man would ever speak to Beren again, nor would anyone see Beren and Luthien leave the world, nor know where their bodies lay.
Wow.
They would have a child, Dior, who would be Thingol's heir after the sack of Menegroth and the death of Thingol. Inside the Legendarium, the tale of Beren and Luthien did much, It would inspire Maethros to create a union against Morgoth, for it was
Doesn't Maethros just keep popping up everywhere? Crazy.
known that it was possible to assail him, as this tale told.
Just like his dad.
The deeds of Beren also opened Thingol's heart to the kindred of men, for he would foster Turin in his halls for a time. And of course, this tale would be recalled in the tale of Aragorn and Arwen. This would not be the last time we read of Beren and Luthien either, for they were yet bound to the Silmaril, for it would cause the death of Thingol, and Beren's fighting against the dwarves alongside green elves and Ents to avenge Thingol and recover the Silmaril. But all of this shall be discussed later in my Timeline of Arda series. For now, however, we have come to the end of the tale of Beren and Luthien.
Timeline of Arda series. Let me know if you want me to watch any of that.
Even beyond the works, this tale inspired much. And in my mind, it is the heart of the Legendarium, because upon the graves of J.R.R. Tolkien and his wife Edith are written the names Beren and Luthien. In life, Edith was indeed the Luthien to Tolkien's Beren, and they remain together even now.
Oh, that's so sweet.
From this part of the tale of Beren and Luthien, we see the power of unfettered love. Not even the bonds of death and fate, nor oaths and curses could break the love and connection between Beren and Luthien. Thank you all so much for watching.
Brilliant. Absolutely amazing, amazing story. That's one of my favorites for sure. And you guys hyped it so much, but it hit all the expectations. So good. So good. Beren must have wondered what exactly was in that herb. Once Juan started. Right? He must have thought he was tripping. I genuinely see why you consider this a greatest love story of all time. Yep. Oh, those dang allergies. Damn. Damn. Such a good video. If you enjoyed that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you want to support me further and am already subscribed to the channel, check the links in the description. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, thank you so much for 300 subscribers. You guys are insane. Let's keep pushing and let's keep going. 1,000 is the goal. We will get there very, very soon. Thanks for everything, guys. See you next time.